on her partnership with Germany, and everybody knows how close she has been of the illiberal presidents in Europe, meaning in Hungary with Viktor Orbán, in Poland, and she's been also very close of Vladimir Putin in the previous years. So it will be, if she's elected, a big change on the European political scene.
Marie, you're a visiting fellow at the Atlantic Council there.
Ukraine now, as the Prosecutor General has said the bodies of more than 1,200 people have been found in the Kyiv region since Russian forces withdrew from the area. It comes as air raid sirens went off across Ukraine in the early morning, including the regions of Lviv, Kyiv, Dnipro and Zaporizhzhia. But some Ukrainians are making their way back to the capital. One of them is Anastasia Lapatina, a reporter for the Kyiv Independent newspaper, and she joins us now. Thank you for joining us on Newsday, Anastasia. So, what's it like to come home, and why are you going?
Hi, first of all, thank you for having me. Well, I think you answered your question already. It is home, and of course you want to go back as fast as possible. And also I'm a reporter, so I kind of have to risk a little bit more than everyone else. But it's absolutely surreal to be here because this is my first time. It's my first time here since the war began. I wasn't fleeing Kyiv when the war began. I was abroad. So this is my first time seeing, the destruction, the burnt houses, the burned schools and hospitals, and the people who are here, So I need a lot of time to kind of let all of this sink in.
Well, that's the thing. You're coming home to a war zone. It may be a slightly safer period than it was a couple of weeks ago, but it's still a war zone. What made you feel it was safe enough to come home?
Well, because the territories, where home is, have been liberated, and the Russians have been pushed back. And of course, I'm only coming temporarily, so I'm not planning this to be a long-term stay for sure, because no one knows how this is going to go. In a week we may have another round of bombing, and in a week Russians may come back. No one knows. But also, before I came to the outskirts of Kyiv, I was in Lviv. That's also a war zone. The entire country is a war zone right now. There are places that are relatively safe. There are places that are safer than others, but you always have to have that risk. But another thing is that you just really want to see these things for yourself. Like regardless of the deaths and the destruction. It is your cities, and when you hear about Russians committing all of these atrocities, you want to be there. You want to see what it looks like. You want to look in the people's eyes, and you really want to take it in because it's such a, in a way, historical moment that you really want to witness it for yourself.
I know you've been watching the news, but you're coming home to your city for the first time, even though you know what's there. What one thing have you seen with your own eyes that shocked you the most?
So, yesterday I was in Baradanka. It's a little village, maybe like half an hour away from Kyiv, and Baradanka has been pretty much completely destroyed. It's a horrific scene. There's rubble everywhere, and many apartment complexes that have been completely turned to dust, and people are still waiting for their loved ones to be pulled out of there. So I went there yesterday, and it was just this big apartment complex, one building on the left, one building on the right, and the building that was between them, has just been completely flattened. And there's this man who was walking around, and he, went on top of the rubble, and I asked him, was he looking for something specific? What was he doing? And he said that he's
Indian Army veteran officer.
Those official reports about new bombings and Russians actively using their airstrikes on key Ukrainian infrastructure, especially life-related infrastructure, They just want to paralyze normal life in the major Ukrainian cities. And I think it's a new strategy that Russian army applies to win more leverage over Ukraine, over Ukrainian governments during the peace talks which are ongoing right now between Ukraine and Russia.
How are you feeling? You were in the military. What are you looking at this and feeling as you go forward?
I think that this is the repetition of what I saw during the first invasion 7-8 years ago. Russian army and Russian command, they use the same tactics of intimidation, of trying to influence our morale of Ukrainian troops. So in this way, they try to win the war with minimal losses. And I think Ukrainian military had a good lesson 8 years ago, and now Kyiv is more prepared to resist and to repel Russian aggression again. And I think Ukraine in a stronger position right now, and Ukraine military is fighting very well. And I hope for the better that they can stop this invasion and maybe win back those occupied territories.
You're a former professional military officer. So many of the people who are fighting this war are architects and doctors, people who've had very little military training. Can that work?
It can work because Ukrainians, they fight for their land, and fighting for their land, they quickly learning how to fight. And I, as a former journalist, I had the basic military training at the university, but then I was enlisted to the army, and I started learning. In 2, 3, 6 months, I learned a lot. So I would not think that former civilians are weak. No, they're able to be trained, and they're fighting for their land, and this is a very strong motivation and very strong background for high morale.
How much longer do you think this can go on for?
Unfortunately, as you know, Russian army is not strong, but it is massive army, and I think it will take a long time to stop them. But it is possible. It is possible, and Ukrainians trying to weaken the Russian army. It may take months, and also it may take years. So I would not expect the victory like in a month or so. And I also do not expect that the war will stop after the peace agreement will be signed. So we should expect longer time to solve this regional conflict, actual war.
So peace talks are taking place. What are the red lines here?
Ukraine should not give more territory to Russia. That's impossible, and this is the red line. I would like to emphasize that during current peace talks between Ukraine and Russia,
there was never an occasion where we had to go to a vote. All the decisions were made by consensus, and so we got there after intense discussion. I guess for those people who came to the table, we all had a commitment to seeing this country's longest river improved. And you were to consider from Wairuwahia down to the outfall to the ocean, to Port Waitaki. It's a degraded body of water, so you can't take food and you can't swim in it safely. We have some real challenges in that area. And co-governance has been a major pillar to bring all people, all interest groups together with one common cause. And there's never, ever any problem.
Yeah, and that was, I think you mentioned the issue that it was not a concern, but it was raised at the start, wasn't it, Tuku, that, how would this consensus decision-making work in 12 years in? Well, you can see the proof is in the pudding. It's a pretty significant co-governance structure. So our panel will have thoughts, but so this model, taking Māori into the government and day-to-day management decisions with an equal number of government and EP appointments on a 10-member board. So that's how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So the crowd gets to choose who they want. Either they're a mix of council, of community, of corporate people. And it works. if you leave aside your personal baggage and you work for a common cause, a shared purpose, and that is to improve the health and well-being of the river, and in this case for Three Waters, to improve water quality, to address the huge issue of ensuring that ordinary people and people around this country get water that's drinkable, that's of an acceptable quality, then there shouldn't be a problem.
Well, let's go to Moata first. Moata, your thoughts, questions around this?
I have to confess in Tuku, when the topic of co-governance has come up recently, and David Seymour's things which I took my best to ignore, I just blanked on it. I just find as a Māori person living in New Zealand that any time there is public discourse around power sharing with Māori or Māori having a voice or a role in governance, it just pulls all of the racists out of the woodwork. And I just actually gave myself permission to not engage with any of this because it's really hard. I mean, I get it in the lead up to Waitangi Day, in the lead up to Matariki, and that's basically all the energy I had for it during the year. I just don't, and I know that that's not good. I know that I should pay attention to these things, and I'm glad that there are people like you two working on this. But I just get, it's a self-care thing. I just want to tap out and go, I don't want to know about any of it because it will make me feel bad about myself.
Yeah, gosh, do you want to talk
That's the truth of it, I'm afraid.
want to talk about something?
Yeah, well, it's always got to be a challenge when you got, for as long as you got panels, the David Seymours around the place, it's always going to be a challenge. But here's the thing: central to this Three Waters debate is the issue around privatisation. Co-governance is the best form